morning, world. Welcome to the Rise Up with Dragon podcast with your host, Dragon.
Great morning, world. You know what? What's really funny? Great morning, Chicky.
Good morning.
Yeah. Is it? Are you lying? Or can you look at your morning right now and make the best of it?
Oh, I'm making the best of
Yeah. This is the best that you have to
shitty
offer. Yeah.
situation.
Great morning, world. One of the things, and in Clubhouse they wouldn't know this, but we're streaming this live in so many different places, and I'm realizing right now in this moment that I've moved on from even feeling the pressure of the live show, meaning, like when you're thinking about it, if anybody does like a Facebook Live or anything live and they think about it, you just want to pass out and vomit and all that stuff. But I realize now that I've moved on from that. But one of the things that always cracks me up is in the intro video that the amazing Claire has made for me. It shows me with my mustache.
Oh.
And
oh my God.
what the hell was I
mustache.
thinking? Tell me the truth right now. Did you like it or not like it when I had the mustache?
It was so insignificant to me, to be honest.
Yeah, but were you happy when it went away? Were you
didn't really even
Were you
care.
worried that I was gonna be a mustache guy?
Yeah, because I remember when I grew up, we had a family friend who had this really thick mustache.
Right.
And we always used to be like, ugh.
Yeah.
And so then I ended up marrying somebody.
I felt a little gross, and my kids kind of said that I look like an alcoholic and stuff like that, which is funny. Anyway.
What does that even mean?
I don't know. Apparently my son says that when I grow a mustache or have too much of a beard, he goes, "Dad, you look like an alcoholic."
That's just
So that's what a 17-year-old says. So anyway, great morning. It's Monday morning. Chicken and I have declared that the next 30 days are going to be it's interesting, pandemic wise, that we have this theory, call it a conspiracy theory, but it's our conspiracy and it's a theory, that we think that we actually might have had coronavirus at some point. We found out that we went away and some of the people that we were with had it. And then we realized that when we came home, and we're so completely out of touch with the news and reality and anything otherwise that's not in support of where we're going. We don't even talk to people about coronavirus or politics or masks. What was that?
I was gonna cough, actually.
That was not did you burp? Did you just turn your head and burp? Oh, you were gonna cough, but then you backed out of it. Do you want to let it out?
No, thank you.
Okay.
No, I just, I've really been struggling with, I don't know, I've been fighting something for a while.
But here's my theory, and I think everybody can relate to this, because the truth is we don't know what the hell's going on, right? Now we're moving into vaccination land, and we're a little uncertain about that, and you've got all these different people doing this. We had a really interesting conversation this weekend when my son won the Sound Source Selects. They won the Toms River tournament. Thank you very much.
Yes.
But anyway, we were having this conversation, not picking any sides about vaccinations or masks or anything like that, or politics. And I love having conversations with people that don't choose a side. They just look at both sides. Those are the kind of conversations that Chicken and Dragon like to have, which we do, by the way, on Tuesdays and Thursdays, all about relationships at 11 a.m. But anyway, what we were talking about was just the idea that there's a lot of unknowns and there's a herd mentality right now. So anytime I see, and this will lead into what we're going to talk about today, because what we're going to talk about today is building a more efficient response system. and it's heavy. We're going to go heavy today, and I'll explain a little bit more about that. But what I'm saying is that we think that because we've heard stories of people that have had coronavirus, like actually got tested positive, and then said that it kind of lingered, and they noticed that they have like asthma or malaise after and all that stuff. So Chicken and I are super, super healthy people. Kind of makes us boring in a way.
Yeah.
But we've noticed that something's changed in the past year. A little less energy. Now we have gotten you got a cough. Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
That's right. A little bit of the black lung.
Yeah, that's a corona.
Yeah, you got to stop smoking, sweetie.
I'm sorry.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
She doesn't smoke.
Gross.
But anyway, we're noticing some potential interesting shifts in the past year. Tired. I notice that I feel like I'm a smoker sometimes,
Yeah,
because
I
I
have
work
this,
out all the time. So anyway, I'm just popping that out there. Would love your feedback on that. Reach out to us through Instagram, Rise Up with Dragon, Karma Mind, and just let us know.
Well, I can tell you, I know I won't taste positive for it. I know I won't. But
Are you positive?
I'm pretty positive about it.
Isn't it funny that we live in a world today where if somebody says, "Are you positive?" like they might answer saying, "No, I got tested. I'm negative." You're like, "You're negative?"
That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm a very positive person.
No,
But I just remember, like,
you've had some stuff going on.
No, I had nightmares of corona last night. Like
She's having corona nightmares. Is anybody experiencing corona
God,
nightmares?
It was terrible. So I dreamt that I was in New York City and I was using the subway, and so I needed to go up the stairs to get to the train.
Okay.
And I was holding onto the handrail, and I just remember thinking, oh, like I could see like smears of goo, like it's just gross.
Corona stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so there was this homeless man sitting there, and I remember giving him money, and I said, here's a tip for you. Do you know where I can wash my hands? And he was like, oh, right there. And so they had like put up.
She had like an open public basin.
Yeah,
set
but like
up.
with this amazing soap, and I was like, this
is
so
the dream,
cool.
everybody. I don't know if everybody on the live show can hear Chicken in the distance, but she's having corona dreams. And you
Yeah.
washed your hands, and did you survive?
Yeah, I woke up and I was fine.
So all I wanted to share with that, we're not going to make a discussion about this today. We're actually going to go into the Rise Up here in a second, and I think you're going to love it. But we're just noticing we're fact checkers. Like we don't watch the news. We don't consume anything that is being fed to the herd, right? Because what we notice is that happiness, joy, success, all those things, all those exponential, uncommon, unusual things that we all desire are not part of the herd mentality. They're the people that take a right instead of a left. So anytime we see the herd, stampeding towards an area, and we also see governing bodies telling them, it's not, like I said, we don't choose sides. We just pause. We're big fans, and this is a big part of changing what I call your interface response system. One of the easiest things you can do to dramatically impact your life, your future, and also your response system is to slow it down, just to pause for a second. So in the realm of vaccinations or anything like that, we're not going anywhere. We're home. So when I see everybody doing something, I just pause and I think about it. I walk around it. We'll talk about this holographically. This is from my book. I look at things from all sides, and it doesn't have to just be coronavirus stuff or vaccination stuff. It could be if I catch wind of politics, right? Or catch wind of bad news, good news, or anything like that. We just practice the pause. And what that enables us to do is create a potential different perspective. Because what we're going to talk about today is that everything lies in the hands of your perspective. And the fact is that your perspective, meaning what you perceive is actually going on, realities, or the way you react to things without the pause, makes or breaks your day, makes or breaks your week, your month, your year, your life. So it's something to really, really take a look at, and but that's my gift right now is the power of the pause. Hashtag the power of the pause. If you create a clip or of this, a screenshot or something like that, just talk about that valuable takeaway, and also practice this idea of pausing today. What do you have to lose? We don't have to respond to things so fast. Okay, so welcome. Great morning to everybody. This is the Rise Up with Dragon podcast/show. So Chicken's mic'd up. So these podcasts are getting loaded to Rise Up with Dragon, and that's on iTunes, Spotify, blah, 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 blah. Also now in India, the Rise Up with Dragon show through Ghana, which is really cool. So hello to India. And we're growing. All these people are downloading and subscribing and giving us ratings. We always appreciate when you go to Rise Up with Dragon, you subscribe, give us a good rating, give us a review. Apparently, we never set out to do this. And I say we because I do everything with Chicken. Mm-hmm. But we never set out to make this show something for our benefit. I think our benefit is that we talk every day and we unpack these things and we explain them to ourselves. And to keep something, you got to give it away. But it's turning into a thing. It's turning into a movement. And I think what's special about this show is that it's a morning show for one thing, and it helps people get unstuck and win the morning, right? Thus winning the day. But also we're talking about things that I think a lot of people are thinking about, but it's a little exhausting to unpack some of these deep concepts, like, is what you see what you get? Is your perception a reflection of the programming that you've received your whole life? Your mother, father, teacher, preacher, and all that. So when we talk about these things, the feedback we're getting is that people are saying wow, I've never looked at life this way. And if we change the way we look at things, the things that we look at change. So that's what it is that we're doing here on the Rise Up with Dragon show. With a little bit of a Telly Savalas look with my glasses today. What do you think I look like when I put these glasses on? No. Say what you were just thinking.
Oh, I think you look like Sacha Baron Cohen.
Sacha Baron Cohen. Okay, I'll take it.
By the way, apparently he has a great show out.
You know what though?
No. But he plays it's a dramatic character.
So it's not like throwing Pamela Anderson in a bag and
no.
Okay. All right, well, we'll check it out. Check it out. Hey, listen, I'll watch that before I watch the news. So we're going to talk about the Rise Up, but just as a reminder, after this Rise Up, we always interact a little bit with our friends in Clubhouse. I see Phil, Tony, Dr. Kim, Catherine. Kim, you changed your name to Doctor. Rita, Denise, Christopher, Carolina. Anyway, so if you want to join, it's at Make Sense Live in Clubhouse. And we always run this show live. Chicken just showed me her new Karma Mind logo, which is amazing. I'm going to take my glasses off because the light is shining and it's crazy. One last thing, we've got the amazing Nir Ayel. And maybe when you listen to this playback, Claire, we can create a little snackable on a clip. But holding up his book right here, Indistractable by the amazing Nir Ayel, he's booked to be on the Rise Up with Dragon show in May. So I'm calling on all chickens and dragons out there, please go consume this book. In light of this whole concept of what we're consuming and how it impacts the way we look at life, this is a good supportive thing to read, to learn how to become indistractable. It would be great if everybody read this book so that you can come to his live interview. Maybe we'll get him to interact with us live as well. So let's get into it. So now I call this is from my book, I call it the interface response system. And what that means is, what's in our control in life? How we respond to stuff. The stuff's not in our control, right? So all day long, and we heard this from Donald Hoffman the other day, what we're doing is we're interacting and interfacing with stuff, right? Happenings, people, things, events, all that stuff. So all of those things that are happening are out of our control for the most part. So the win is always in our response. So if you look at everything that we do, just like you watching this right now, even if you're on Clubhost, you're not watching this, you're interfacing right now. We're interfacing with audio, with video, all of that stuff. So how you respond to this, positively or negative, is everything. So to reclaim control of your life, it is to change your interface response system. So I go deep into this in the book, but this is my rise up here. So how we respond to the perception of space and time. Now, Donald Hoffman talks about space and time, but you can also just refer to space and time as happenings, right? Anything that you perceive, interface. So all day long and to a certain degree during sleep, right? Meaning all day long when you're awake and you're asleep, humans experience life through an interface between themselves, right? And all space and time happenings, right? Via perception. So that's how we're experiencing life right now. We're experiencing life by interfacing and creating perceptions right now. So this is really, really important to understand because this is make or break for the day. So the question is what you see what you get? Now we also know that when we that what we see can be jaded by what we think and how we're programmed. So that's something that's important because if you've been programmed to believe a certain way from your mother, father, teacher, preacher, and also now the massive consistent consumption of TV news and all that stuff, well, if that is messing with your program and you're calling your shots based on that, well, you should become aware of that. That's why we made a conscious decision to stop consuming stuff because we started to notice that our mood and our temperament and our personality was being altered by what we were consuming. Consumption, it's not just about food and water, it's about information and visuals. It's a hot topic, but like ignorance potentially is bliss, right? And love. Hey, Anna Lee, Barbara, love getting the feedback on the live show. So, but the idea here around perception is that seeing unveils the potential for believing. So a lot of your beliefs, this is really fascinating. A lot of your beliefs, what you say you believe in, that's not just some magical thing that comes from the inside out. Very often that comes from the outside in. Your belief is being programmed as well by what it is that you're seeing and perceiving. So remember, what we're talking about is this altering and claiming control of this interface response system. So when you speak of some of the greatest minds of all times, like the amazing Donald Hoffman, who's coming back for part 2, who's a cognitive scientist and author of The Case Against Reality, don't have it next to me. And what he talks about is the fact that evolution hid truth from our eyes. Then we gain access to the latest science of perception. And when I say the latest science of perception, I mean very often you're just assuming that what you see is what you get. But if you take a deeper look and you take the red pill and you go down the rabbit hole a little bit and you start to realize that your perception was created for your evolution and your survival, but also jaded by these outside things, then you realize that you can't really claim that what you see is what you get. Right? There's so many different factors in that. And I love to sit in that space because whenever I see or hear something, in order for me to take a pause, one of the first things I have to do is say, well, I don't know. I don't know what I don't know. So one of my favorite ways to respond to anything that I see happen or someone that says something is I usually just say, right? I just make a sound because I like to take a little bit of time. So this gives us access, right? So he introduces the idea that what you see is merely what you see. Now there's an interesting thing, right? What if you just went about your day-to-day and didn't assume that what you see is what you get or what you hear is what is, right? Why don't we just say, hey, I heard something, but it's just something that I heard. That's where your little pause lives, and maybe you don't have to react so fast. So what you get from what you see is merely a rendering, and Donald Hoffman talks about it like a desktop icon. So what you get, what you actually claim you get from what you see is just a rendering of a deeper truth meaning there's something behind it that you don't need to see as it doesn't serve you. So think about that. If we're going about our day and we're seeing things and claiming and getting from them and creating a perspective, what he's saying is that there's something deeper. There's a deeper truth, like why it's happening and the physics and the science behind it and all that stuff. We don't need that stuff to get through our day. So what we do is we just claim that what we see is what we get. So then the question pops up as to whether or not what you see even exists in the absence of perception while you're not seeing it. Now that, means that when I hold this pen up, right, I say this is a pen. So I'm using the sensory mechanism of my eyes and tactile sensory of my hands right now. And I said, that's a pen. But if I take the pen and I put it down and I look it away, now my assumption is that it's still there, but is it? You can't prove that it's there anymore. So that's pretty amazing too. Now, why is this important in the interface? Because if you don't have an understanding of what you're interfacing with, and even remotely cracking the surface of exploring and being open to the fact that what you see is not what you get, then you'll start to make claims. And the claims you make based on what you see, that's where we get into trouble. So when you look away, do they go away? Do things exist in the absence of your perception? If somebody says something to you and you get upset about it, but then something else comes up and you forget about what just happened that you were upset about, does it even exist? Well, not in that moment, right? So now you start to realize that you can go back and forth and claim what is going on. I know this is heavy, but you also know this is true. But when you look away, so this is an extremely powerful concept to entertain because it completely changes the game of perception and our emotional response system to all space and time. Now, the number one problem in our world right now is not things like obesity and depression and all of those things, financial. Those are all downstream symptoms. If you really look upstream, the number one problem in our world right now is the way we respond to adversity, our emotional response system, right? We're incapable of responding emotionally in support of where we want to go. That's why we keep getting off track and we get caught up in all this stuff. I saw on the news, or I heard through the news, we actually didn't see it. Every now and then when we're in like a public place, we'll see it. But I saw that there's like riots going on because of, because of the shootings and all that stuff. And you see people that are fighting for a certain, race of human beings by destroying people from that race of human beings. So you see that a lot of people are just out there acting out. They don't really know. So this has a lot to do with perception, right? So let's play through this scenario. So you're going about your day and something hypothetically goes wrong. This happens to a lot of people. But we also want to change to happens for people. So say a great client of yours decides to cancel, doing business with you, and you perceive this as a negative act of defiance via email, right? So think about that scenario. You're in business and somebody cancels on you. So your perception is that it's a negative thing. So naturally, as your goals are focused on business growth and creating time and money freedom, this comes as a shock and triggers feelings of despair and challenges your self-worth and creates financial worry and distress. So that one thing that happens, right, you're interfacing with it, because of your perception of it being a negative thing. Somebody says, I'm done with you, right? Or they just ghost you or something like that. And you respond in a negative way, right? That's where we want to go. So let's go through that scenario. So those negative feelings that you have not only impact your physical, you feel them and your emotional state, but actually in turn impact those around you. So look at the cascade of how powerful a negative feedback loop would be, right? So all due to your perception of what happened to you, ? Right? So your good friend consoles you in that scenario, and that's what good friends do, and says something like, hey, don't worry, one door closes and another opens, or they say, screw them, right? And that's how you react to it, right? You say, I'm going to move on, but it's still happening, right? Whenever we say that we're going to move on from something, that means that something still exists, right? So they're the unlucky ones for losing you. So maybe that feels a little better as it creates a new perception that perhaps is just, it just wasn't a good fit for you. So we have all these ways of justifying why bad things happen. But I want you to go back. The challenge right now is how we reacted to that thing. So what if we learned how to react to it a different way, right? So then here's what happens. Then as time goes by, this is the value of looking at things holographically. Then as time goes by, you find out that your client isn't unhappy with your services and wants to stay with you, although they're facing financial hardship due to their own circumstances. And this moves you into a state of empathy and sympathy. So you go through all that negative stuff, which impacts you physically, mentally, financially, and everybody around you. And then later on, you say, oh, I'm so sorry you're going through these things. So go back to the initial knee-jerk reaction that you had in a negative way and realize that you didn't even consider an alternative. And that's that unconscious programming and that knee-jerk reaction. What if you paused, and in that pause, you just considered other options? You'd save yourself a lot of time and money. So again, changing your perception, and the cloud is lifted up off of you. You pull up your pants and you go back to work, find a new client, leave the door open for that person that's struggling and in support and friendship, and let them know that they can return anytime they want. So the idea is if we speed that process up, we're going to be in much better shape. So letting them know that you're there for them all the time is something that we feel good about, right? So we go back into service. So here's the thing. All these things and feelings are based on perceptions, and you can see how they have dramatic impact on our lives. Imagine if you could control your perceptions and see the world and all the happenings of space and time in a way that unveils the potential that what you see is only what you see, but not necessarily what you're getting. Here's the space. What if you learned how to change the way you perceive things? Imagine what would happen to your day. Imagine what would happen to your day if you claimed control over the way you responded to things. That's what the interface response system is. It's first awakening to what it is, and then acknowledging that you can actually control it with something as simple as a pause and an open-ended look around things. That's holographic. So, or, learn what's actually happening. So the name of the game is recognizing the idea of controlling what I call your interface response system. So meaning how we perceive and respond to the uncontrollable and potentially unreal. Think about that. Not only are these things that are happening uncontrollable, but Donald Hoffman and science and math tells us that they might not even be happening. They might not even be happening. That's why we have a tendency of when we're like, imagine if you're watching a horror movie and you don't like horror movies, you don't like to be scared. What do? You close your eyes, you close your ears. Does it make that go away? It does. You kind of know that it's still happening, but you're not experiencing it anymore. So there's proof of that right there. So it's out of your control and maybe not even happening. There's where you create the open space to take your pause. P.S. This is only complicated because of this thing called natural selection. And he talks a lot about that, Donald Hoffman. Natural selection has evolved our human senses. We've actually evolved and we've been trained to use our eyes, ears, smell, taste, touch, all of these senses and the sixth sense, right? We have this tendency of saying, I don't feel right about this, right? All of those senses via natural selection, only the strong survive. We've been trained to use our senses to create perceptions for survival. Remember, one of the main reasons we don't seek the truth behind things is that we don't have time, and also it doesn't necessarily serve us. What we're doing is we're trying to get by our day, right? So what I'm saying is that that's part of the problem, is we're unconsciously running through our day. So very, very important to recognize. So let me read that again. This is only complicated because natural selection has evolved our human senses so that we create a perception of reality that works for us and carries us forward in progress and evolution. Our perceptions of reality were not shaped to unveil the absolute truth. Think about that. Think about your mother, father, teacher, preacher. Think about natural selection and recognize that your perception of reality, which is created by your senses, right? They were not created in support of the absolute truth. They were created so you only see what you need to see to move forward, but that's where it gets sticky, right? So they were shaped to see what we need to see to procreate and evolve, right? So can we work on controlling our perceptions so we don't get off track? Yes. So we learn conscious techniques to help us, like things like Stoicism, which teaches us to pause, and holographic vision, and Buddhism, like to come to terms with things. In my book, when I talk about holographic vision, it teaches us to take inventory and see happenings from all sides, right? So let's step back and look at this whole perception game. Now, I don't know how you're receiving this. I would assume some people receive this and go, oof, this is heavy, this is exhausting. But you know what? Imagine what would happen if you changed your perception game, right? So if we change our perception game, now we can become mindful that our entire life experience is based on our perceptions. That's the space that you start. So what it means is that the secret to success, fulfillment, and happiness lies in our response system to the happenings in life. And in that response system, that's where things get lost or gained, right? So science and mathematics are now saying that there is zero possibility. This is why I'm into the case against reality. Science and math are saying there's zero possibility that what we see and call reality is actually truth. That's proven now. Now, we can have our own opinion about it, but that's what we know for sure, right? What we see, there is a zero chance that it is actually what we see, meaning that there's more to it. There's more to it. Now, that's what's important. If somebody says, JC, I see this pen, so I know it's a pen. I'm touching it and I see it. That's not what I'm saying, right? That's objective, right? I understand that. But what I'm saying is that there's more to it. So what if you started to just open up to the fact that there's more to it than what you think? So nothing exists in the absence of our perception of it. So perception is a heavy duty thing. So the secret to access, the secret lies in our ability to understand that we are the author and director of this movie, right? Because if we control our perception, and the moment that we grab control of our perceptions and decide how we are going to see the world, is this perhaps something that creates optimistic and pessimistic people? Think about that, right? Do you know optimistic and pessimistic people? Some people are fear-based and some people are fearless. Some confident and some unconfident. So see, science now tells us that what you see is not what you get. So if you're going about your day and you're claiming that it's a good day or a bad day, it's based on your perception. That's that feedback loop. So what you see is merely an interface between you and the game of life. I love looking at it as game of life. It helps me not take it so serious. So just like the icons on a desktop, they help you navigate and communicate with something bigger. The computer, the internet, etc. When you're looking at the icons on your desktop, there's something behind it, the computer, the wire, all that stuff. That's the same way when I hear somebody say something to me and give me some shit, right? If I look at that and I say, that's a desktop icon, right? It helps me stop, pause, and look behind it and say, what's really going on? And you know what the computer is? Their day, their programming, all that stuff. All you see and feel is what they said, right? And if you take a pause and you look at all of it, you'll recognize that there's a whole computer behind that desktop. So I love this idea and remaining open to it, as it helps me realize that I decide and control how my life experience unfolds. Here's how I decide and control how my life experience unfolds. I decide what I'm going to choose as my perception, right? Now call me naive, call me silly for looking at something and seeing some angry person and saying, I really like that person. And somebody that doesn't agree with me says, what are you doing? What are you talking about? I'd be like, I choose that. I call the shots, right? So the computer and the internet behind it is unknown. So I'm just gonna remain an open person to all these things, so that I'm gonna let the experience unfold the way I want it. So I control the fantasy and thus the outcome. If someone observes you calling a bad thing good, right? If someone observes you calling a bad thing good or describing an event different than they see it, right? They're simply running their perception program and unaware of it. So if somebody challenges you on this, and I get challenged all the time, and I welcome challenges, right? I love when people say, what you're saying is crazy. And I go, there's a high probability that you're right about that, but explain why. I'm open to anything. Because remember, everything I'm saying right now, I also have to remain open that there's more to it. That's one of the things I love about Donald Hoffman is he's saying science and math, but he's saying we created science and math. Maybe science and math is wrong, but until you come up with a new way to prove things, this is what we're going with, right? So they're simply running their perception program and unaware of it, unconscious to this. So have empathy for people that think that when you talk about something that you're passionate about and somebody says it's nonsense, forgive them for they know not what they do. They're unconscious to being open to things, right? Remember this. It's the ignorance of reality that enables one to control reality. Let me say that again. It's the ignorance of reality that enables one to control reality. You know what that means? Is if I'm ignorant and claim that I don't know anything about reality. Now, I know science says there's zero probability that what we see is what we get, right? So it's ignorance of reality that enables one to control reality. That's a quote that we need to put up somewhere. Nobody likes to lose control. This is why we try to control things. We control our reality because we want to remain in control. So you share this knowledge not by lecturing people, but demonstrating how you respond with no buy-in. This is what I love to do. I'm not buying into this or anything else. I'm open to learning about everything, and I just make a hypothesis about the thing that makes the most sense for me. My whole book is about that. It's just about creating a new way of making sense of things. But as soon as you make sense of something, you also have to remain open to the fact that there might be a better explanation. We can never choose to be right versus open and kind, because as soon as we do, right, we're claiming that we know, and then our perceptions are jaded by that, and then we start screwing up, right? So you share this knowledge not by lecturing, but by demonstrating how you respond with no buy-in, and just remain open and curious with compassion, and take a pause to consider and decide on how you see it. If you practice this, we're going to close out right now. If you practice this and you just remain open and you just take that pause and take a walk around things and just really remain open to the fact that you might not know everything that you know, you will be free like you wouldn't believe. I asked, one last thing I'll say is I asked Donald Hoffman, if this is all true, I want to know, why are we here? What's our purpose? If this whole experience is potentially not real, what's the use? Like, what are we here for? And he says, to explore and enjoy the experience of life, right? And you know what's cool about that? It helps you not take yourself so seriously. What if our job here, what if your whole purpose here was to explore and enjoy life, right? And learn as you go, right? Now you understand why we're going to go get healthy. We're going on a 30-day run for physical, mental, and financial health. Why? In support of that, so that we can experience life to its fullest. That's why we're doing this now. Why do we want to live longer? So we can experience life to the fullest. All right. Love and appreciate all of you. Hope you enjoyed this. This was a heavy one, but I needed to get it out. And I love the feedback. So please give me feedback. We're going to jump in the, I'm wondering if anybody in the clubhouse room is going to have anything to say about this, because they're probably leaking brain matter out of their ear right now. Chicken, I love you to death.
I love you.
Love you. And we're going to have an amazing day from now on.
Yes.
Okay. She just gave me a complete bullshit yes. Yes. All right. Love and appreciate you all. Have an amazing day.